Stella said, lifting the lion. Rosalind petted his fur appreciatively. He's very beautiful. I'm honored that you brought him. Now, have you been to a school before? No, but Kuya teaches me. She looked up at Cecily, who nodded encouragingly. Kuya means aunt, she explained to Rosalind, who then led Stella to a small reading corner where cushions were strewn on a playmat, and they sat down together. Cecily watched with pride as Stella became animated as Rosalind asked her questions, then reached for one of the picture books on the shelf beside them. Stella began to read aloud the passages that Rosalind pointed to. Cecily sat down at one of the small desks as Rosalind took Stella through some basic arithmetic, then some logic questions, which Stella answered with ease. After 30 minutes, Rosalind suggested that Stella meet the other children, and she jumped up eagerly. They were led downstairs and into a large kitchen where 4 children were eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at an old oak table. Say hello to Stella, everyone, Rosalind called, and the boys and girls stood up shyly to welcome her. Cecily watched as Stella smiled widely and went to sit at the table next to Rosalind's daughter, who was introduced as Harmony, her hair styled in curly, ribboned bunches, and gave her half of her sandwich. So, it would just be you and me teaching at the moment, Rosalind said quietly to Cecily as they watched the children giggling together at the table. If the school's a success, I hope to expand. My thoughts are that I'd fund it by asking some of my more well-off Negro friends who are hungry to get a decent education for their kids to pay, which would enable us to take on the brighter kids whose parents can't afford to do so. That's a great plan. You've really thought this all through, Cecily said, full of admiration for her new friend. Well, since I'm home here with Harmony anyway, I might as well put my degree to good use. So, tell me more about Stella. It's obvious she's a bright spark and adores you. Cecily watched to make sure Stella was fully occupied, then indicated the two of them should move out of earshot. I actually found her when she was only a few hours old, left for dead in the woods on my farm in Kenya. I took her home and, well, Cecily sighed. It's hard to explain, but it was love at first sight. My husband was shocked when I said I wanted to care for her, to bring her up as our own, but he came round to the idea, and we hatched a plan so that we could. Cecily explained Lankanua's arrival in their lives and how Stella believed she was her mother. Of course, no one knows the truth, Rosalind. My mama would simply die if she got wind of the real state of the relationship, but it's the best we can do. I understand, said Rosalind. Cecily saw there were tears in her eyes. Can I give you a hug? Why, of course, Cecily said, as Rosalind took her into her embrace. I just think what you have done for that child is about the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, and I want to help you give Stella everything she deserves, and more. Cecily felt tears in her own eyes, too, because it was the first time since she'd taken Stella into her arms as a newborn that she'd ever been able to share the truth of the situation with anyone but Bill and Lankanua. And what about your husband? Is he expecting you back in Kenya any time soon? Asked Rosalind, her perceptive gaze boring into Cecily's own. In truth, yes. But maybe I can delay for a while and see how Stella and I settle in here. Like you, I need a purpose, to be able to put my brain to good use. In Kenya, apart from the house and gardens, and Stella, of course, I don't have one. And for her, there is no future in Africa right now. All right, kids, who wants to go outside in the snow? Rosalind turned and asked the children. Me! Me! They all shouted. Cecily and Rosalind followed them as they trooped out of the kitchen, and the two women helped them don their snow boots and jackets. I've never played in the snow before, Stella said quietly to Cecily. I won't know what to do. I'll show you how, piped up Harmony. We'll make a snowman. Stella took her hand and they ran out into the garden, where they all shrieked and laughed as a snowball fight ensued, then worked together to build a snowman. Watching from the French doors, Cecily had never seen her so confident and happy. In fact, she had never seen Stella play together with so many children. Out of necessity, Stella's world had been small and contained, the only playmate her age being Michael. Here, she could be a normal child amongst kids just like her. Instinctively, she knew this was absolutely the right place for Stella, and that she would sacrifice just about anything to continue seeing her little girl so happy. I would love to have you both join our school, said Rosalind, as they stood on the stoop later that afternoon. But I also know that you've got a big decision to make, right? I do, yes. Well, let me know when you've decided, okay? I will. As she led Stella down the steps to the waiting car, Cecily felt almost tearful as she watched her wave to her new friends. Bye-bye, see you soon, Stella called. As they drove off, Cecily knew that she'd do all she could to make sure her beloved daughter would. The next morning, Cecily woke up, her head and heart aching from a dream of Bill. She dressed quickly and crept downstairs, not wishing to wake the sleeping house. It was still dark outside, with only the first glimmers of dawn touching the sky, and she wrapped herself tightly in her coat and fur muffler and walked towards Central Park. Her ankle still feeling delicate, she cleared some snow off a bench and sat down facing the famous Alice in Wonderland statue, dressed in a white gown of frost. The park was quiet, with only a few haggard pigeons pecking fruitlessly at the slush on the ground. Cecily hugged herself, feeling a little like she too had fallen down a rabbit hole since she had arrived in Manhattan. She watched her breath visible in the frigid air, now a novelty to her after being so long in the heat of Africa. Here, the Manhattan setting